Hello Discovery Ridge Stars, welcome to another week of online art class. What we're going to be doing this week is we're going to be doing a project just for the older grades where we're going to take either a quote or a song lyric or maybe the stanza of a poem that you like, and we're going to be turning it into a work of art. So I'm going to show you my example right here. It looks like this, and I'll include a picture here. So what mine says is, I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. And this actually comes from a stanza of a poem by a woman named Sarah Williams, and it was back in the 1800s, and it was a poem about an astronomer who was very, very old, and he was about to pass away, and he was giving words of wisdom to his younger student. And so his student asked if he was afraid of the unknown. And the astronomer told him, "Though my soul may set in darkness, it will rise in perfect light. I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night." And so it's about looking into the future where you might not know exactly what's coming, but looking at the beauty of the unknown. So that's the quote that I chose. I thought it was really fitting because we are the Discovery Ridge Stars, and also we have a lot of unknown things happening right now. So I thought it really worked well with this. So what we're going to be doing is choosing a quote, a song lyric, a stanza of a poem, or any other words that you think might symbolize how you feel during this time, or how maybe you want to feel, or maybe just a favorite song lyric or something. And we're going to turn it into art. So I'm going to show you how to do that.
One of the biggest parts of a project like this is actually the planning stage. So for this, I used a whiteboard and whiteboard markers to draft out my design, which means that I'm planning it before I actually put it on paper. So I knew that I wanted to do the quote that I named before, and I knew it was kind of a lot of words, and so I figured I could probably split it up into about 5 lines. So if I'm splitting the poem up into 5 lines, that means I need to draw 4 lines, and that gives me 5 spaces to draw. So you can see here that I'm using my marker to kind of make these wiggly lines across the whiteboard, and I want it to be evenly spaced. So after I put those 4 lines on there, I decided the top one was too big, so I decided that I needed to erase it and try it again. If you don't have a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker, you could do this on paper. Just draw really lightly so that you can erase it if you need to. So here I'm trying to space my lines a little bit better. I'm also trying to make sure that my wiggle pattern is different for every line. I didn't want it to look like every line was doing the exact same thing. So I'm looking at it. I still think that that top section is a little bit small, but we're gonna work with it. I started drawing my words with a black marker, but then I decided that you guys wouldn't really be able to see it, so I switched to a red marker. So what I'm going to be doing now is actually drafting out how the words are going to go. So there's a few things to keep in mind. Number one, you're going to want to use only capital letters for your entire project. You don't have to do it this way, but in order for this to work for me, I wanted to make sure that each and every letter reached all the way from the top of that section to the bottom. So you can see how I'm stretching that letter E and that letter D all the way from the very top to the very bottom. So this is important for this project because we're going to be coloring the spaces in between instead of coloring our letters. And so if we're going to break it up into smaller spaces, we need to go all the way from the very top line to the very bottom line. So this is how I'm planning out my design. I will say that I cheated just a little bit, and I had already done this a few times and messed up a few times. I didn't want to show you guys all my mess ups, so I did this afterwards, but this took some planning to get this to fit exactly how I wanted it to fit. So I'm using a red marker here, but when you're doing your actual design, you'll be doing it on paper, and you'll be doing the whole thing with black marker. So one thing that I wanted to do was I made sure that my wiggly lines were done with a black marker and traced one time. And then when I did my letters, I made sure that I really made those nice and bold. So I traced my letters a few times. Sometimes with a letter like I'm doing right now, I did the E just then, the top of the E is lined up with the top of the squiggle line. So if you don't make that really nice and thick, you're not really going to see it. Same thing with that bottom of that L I just made. You got to make sure that you can see that differently from the squiggle line. So after you have this planned out either on a whiteboard or on a white piece of paper and you like the arrangement of it, you're just going to switch to a white paper of any size or type. If you want it to match what's on your whiteboard, just make sure it's about the same size and shape. I used a regular piece of computer paper and that would work just fine. And so I'm going to just move this design from my whiteboard to a regular white piece of paper, use pencil first of course, and then trace it with black marker. Once you have your design traced with black marker, you can see that it looks really nice and bold and it's just waiting for some color. So you could color this any way that you wanted. I decided that each white section of mine was going to be treated like a different shape, and I also decided that I wanted to do a value change inside each section. So the value change just means that I use pressure, which means pressing lightly or pressing hard, to create a value change, which means how light or dark something is. So I picked different colors, just switching it up and keeping it random, and I pressed really hard when I started, and then I started pressing lighter and lighter and lighter, and then by the time I was done with that small section, I was barely coloring at all. So it makes each section look like it's fading as it goes. You don't have to color using value change if you don't want to. You could use markers and just color them in like regular. You could also use color pencils or crayons or oil pastels or even paint and just color them in however you think looks nice. I'm interested to see what kind of quotes or song lyrics or poems that you guys enjoy. So make sure to share with me whatever you've made, whether on Google Classroom or with my email address, or you can put them on social media and share them with me there. So I hope you guys enjoy creating something inspired by this project, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.